Good evening, I'm Adrian Arsenault. Andrew is off. Tonight, the Prime Minister in the hot seat.
Then tell me what it is.
My mother
How much?
has
just the dollar figure.
Throughout her life.
The dollar figure, Prime Minister.
Justin Trudeau testifies before the Finance Committee on the We Charity controversy, the confrontations, the key moments, and what it all means. Andrew, Chantal, and Althea were watching too. They will give us their take.
Every possible measure is being taken to keep our children safe.
Ontario and Manitoba reveal their plans for back to school, but the concerns haven't gone away.
2, 1, and liftoff.
And how this mission to Mars will bring us a clearer look at the red planet.
Ultimately, we're looking for evidence of life.
This is The National. For about an hour and a half today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was questioned, forced to defend himself, his government, and the decision to strike a government deal with We Charity, which has ties to his own family. In a rare move, he appeared before the House of Commons Finance Committee, as did his Chief of Staff, insisting that while he should have recused himself from discussions on the decision, there was no conflict of interest. Trudeau's appearance was heated at times, and out of it, some new information about what the Prime Minister says he knew and when. David Cochrane takes us through it all.
In a time when nearly everyone is wearing a mask, the Prime Minister insists he has nothing to hide.
We Charity received no preferential treatment, not from me, not from anyone else. The public service recommended We Charity, and I did absolutely nothing to influence that recommendation.
Far from speeding it along, Trudeau says he slowed things down. Told on May 8th that We was the only choice to run the program, he asked the civil service to take another look.
I said, you know what? Let's put the brakes on it. Let's make sure that it's done absolutely everything right, because there are going to be questions because of the connections with my family on this.
2 weeks later, he says the advice from civil servants didn't change. We had to run the program, or there would be no program.
Cabinet is responsible for decisions, not the public service. A major mistake was made. Someone in cabinet should be held accountable. Which minister will you fire?
The opposition was less interested in the defense than the consequences, pressing Trudeau on the conduct of his ministers.
How many times would one of your ministers need to be found guilty of breaking the Conflict of Interest Act for you to fire them?
On how much money We paid his family.
You don't know how much your family has received from this organization, which you tried to give $500 million, really?
Can I answer, Mr. Poilievre?
I'm waiting. You haven't done an answer so far. Let's make this the first one.
On the ties between the Liberals and the Kielburgers.
The Kielburger brothers carefully cultivated their relationship with you and your brand. After you became Prime Minister, they put you on the stadium circuit. They hired your family members to the tune of $500 million. They hired the finance minister's daughter. They flew him around the world.
I knew there would be questions asked because of the links to the family, but in no way was this benefiting my mother or my brother to be creating a grant program for students to volunteer in their communities right across the country.
For 90 minutes, Trudeau was adamant his government did nothing improper. There was no personal benefit, no real conflict of interest, just a perception of one that he failed to properly manage.
Yes, in hindsight, I should have recused myself, and perhaps that the program would be delivering for students right across the country right now.
But he didn't, and it's not. The Prime Minister says this was a choice between We or nothing. They chose We, and so far, student volunteers have nothing. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
All right, so let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton on all this. Rosie, such a long day. What really stood out for you, though, in the Prime Minister's testimony?
Well, Adrian, it's interesting because there was sort of an admission by the Prime Minister today that he does have potentially a blind spot that he is increasingly aware of. You know, the admission that he realized when this was first presented to him that there may be a quote-unquote perception problem here by choosing the We Charity and asking the public service to do more due diligence, but then deciding that he was going to go ahead with the program anyway because, as he says, there was no other choice presented. It's interesting because he continues to have problems problems in his role as Prime Minister with this blind spot in terms of his own vulnerabilities and potential problems of conflict. And I think there was evidence today that he's sort of aware of them, but not enough to protect himself.
Okay, so if you think about all the build-up to today, now that it's over, what happens?
Well, the Conservative Party, the opposition parties are going to try very hard to try and keep this alive, trying to get further testimony from further witnesses in front of the committee. The drip, drip, drip of this, they think, will probably, they hope, continue to do damage to the Prime Minister and to the government. The Ethics Commissioner continues his investigation. The Prime Minister, though, is going to take a couple of down weeks. He's going to take a couple of weeks of holidays, so that will sort of take him out of the spotlight. But, like, make no mistake, after what we saw today, the opposition parties are looking for a way to keep the pressure on both the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, and we'll talk a little bit more about that with At Issue later.
Oh yeah, they're not letting go. Rosie, thanks very much.
Thanks, Adrian.
And as Rosie mentioned, a day like today needs At Issue. The whole group will be here in about 20 minutes. Ontario has unveiled its plan to open schools. After nearly 6 months, students will return to classes in September. Thomas Degla looks at the plan.
So much for carefree summer fun, when even in July, the talk is all about back to school, and not to mention that virus.
Everybody's kind of nervous about sending the kids back.
I don't want to go to school because I don't feel safe.
For kids in Ontario, the countdown to the classroom has now begun, with elementary students going back for full-time in-person learning in September.
You know it's the best thing, but it's almost like a dark cloud hanging over it.
Premier Doug Ford and his government gave a first taste of what to expect.
You can drop your child off at school, knowing that every possible measure is being taken to keep our children safe.
Students are to be kept at least 1 meter apart. Children split into groups known as class cohorts to limit exposure. There will be money for extra cleaning and more staff, and parents will be allowed to keep kids at home if they choose. The plan leaves teachers doubtful.
We have some classrooms with 30 students, and to say 1 meter apart, that doesn't work.
Grocery stores, bars, and gyms in this province have more safety protocols in place than our classrooms will come September.
As of grade 9, it gets more complicated, with many secondary schools splitting time between in-class instruction and virtual learning, and everyone required to self-monitor for COVID-19 symptoms.
The worst fear is that there will be this sudden spike and a lot of things happening at once. Flu season, COVID-19 starts to pop up in surveillance, and then kids start to get sick.
Students grade 3 and under won't have to wear a mask. The older ones will, but some may opt out altogether.
I'd rather be safe than sorry, so if you don't want to go, don't go.
Families have about a month to decide, and plenty can change in the meantime. Thomas Dagler, CBC News, Toronto.
Manitoba also released its back-to-school plan today, saying all students will return starting September the 8th. Students in kindergarten through grade 8 will be in class full-time. High school students may do some remote learning if that's the only way to ensure physical distancing. The province will use risk levels to decide when and if that should change. Masks won't be required, but they will be allowed. While Ontario enjoys a lull in the rate of new cases and Quebec's numbers remain relatively stable, the growth in new infections has been trending west. In June, the share of daily new cases coming out of Western Canada, so we're talking BC, Alberta, and the Prairies, was about 5%, with the other 95% coming out of Central Canada, so Ontario and Quebec. Now, nearly 40% of Canada's new COVID-19 cases come from the West. And Briar Stewart shows us that in BC, some of those cases can be traced back to people who took liberties with a virus, just waiting for a chance to mingle.
A sweltering day along Kelowna's waterfront. This weekend it will be much busier, along with its many patios. Good for a community that depends on tourism, but concerning because of the growing number of COVID-19 cases.
You're healthy and happy and you're coming to visit, I think it's okay. And if not, then stay home.
As long as everyone's practicing safe social distancing and being safe, I mean, life still has to go forward.
More than 125 cases have been connected to Kelowna, but there are likely more. The total doesn't include any Albertans who tested positive for COVID-19 after returning home from visiting the city.
Canada Day, a lot of social distancing, not.
The outbreak began around the July long weekend, and health officials say it's been driven by private gatherings. They warned about potential exposure at a number of businesses and resorts, and the province moved to limit the number of people that can be in a rental property or on a boat.
We're asking people to take their time and explore maybe a little bit slower, a little bit more safely this time.
The city of Kelowna will be sending out staff to beaches and parks, reminding people to physically distance, and some businesses have stepped up precautions. After a staff member tested positive, this pub shut down for 2 days, and the owners implemented even more changes.
All of our team has opted to work solely with us and not at other locations to tighten the bubble, keep it smaller. Everyone needs to do their part.
Because it's not only a matter of trying to protect people's health, but also a tourism-fueled economy. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Vancouver.
Still in BC, provincial officials have restricted travel to Haida Gwaii. A recent outbreak in the islands of just under 5,000 residents has led to 20 confirmed cases, most still considered active. Travel to the islands will only be allowed for essential services. That will be decided by local governments. New Brunswick will expand its travel bubble to include 2 Quebec border communities starting this Saturday. Residents of those communities will have to pre-register to make day trips, but they won't need to self-isolate. For now, this goes no further into Quebec. New Brunswick entered its 10th consecutive day with no new cases, and there were no new cases anywhere in the Atlantic bubble today. And starting tomorrow, restrictions have tightened for U.S. travelers coming through Canada on their way to Alaska. They will only be allowed through 5 designated border crossings in Western Canada. They have to take the most direct route. They have to display tags on their vehicles for the duration of their trip to and from Alaska. So often, when we look at the COVID caseload, we're looking at places, but new data from Toronto is breaking down the infection numbers by faces. As Farah Morali explains, those faces are overwhelmingly people of color.
Cheryl Prescott packs up face masks to hand out to members of her community.
Thank you very much.
This centre serves a population that's been one of the hardest hit by COVID-19 in the entire city.
We're hoping that we will have the resources it takes to really address these problems.
Many of her clients are people of color. Today, new data paints a stark picture of just how disproportionately they are getting infected.
We need to address these health inequities and get to the root cause of what underpins our overall health.
People of color make up 83% of reported COVID cases in Toronto, but they only make up half of the city's population. Among those groups, those in the Black community make up 21% of the cases, even though they only make up 9% of the population. Arab, Middle Eastern, and West Asian people make up 11% of the cases when they're just 4% of the population. The data also shows that in more than half of the reported cases, people live in low-income households.
Some people thought that COVID would be the great equalizer, but COVID isn't the great equalizer. COVID actually exacerbates existing differences between communities.
Dr. Kwam McKenzie says racialized populations are more likely to live in poverty, poor housing, or work precarious jobs.
All of these things lead to worse health and worse social circumstances, and COVID loves those things.
Toronto is one of the few jurisdictions in the country to collect race-based COVID-19 data.
The health authorities are still running blind.
But some are pushing for it to be collected across the country.
I must say that Canada has caused some deaths by not doing this. I am absolutely clear that we did fail to protect people.
Back at the centre,
the communities are getting very tired of hearing the numbers, seeing these dire statistics that show that they are more at risk without any clear plan as to how it will be addressed by our government.
Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
We know long-term care homes have also been hit very hard by COVID-19. In Edmonton, 5 more residents have died at one facility battling an outbreak. That adds up to 21 deaths at the Good Samaritan Southgate Care Centre. There are currently 54 active cases among about 180 residents, and 16 staff members are infected too. COVID-19 put a new spotlight on long-term care homes, but deadly problems in these types of facilities go way back. Elizabeth Wetlaufer's serial killings of residents prompted an inquiry report. And as David Common tells us, some say a failure to act on those recommendations has made the COVID crisis worse.
The outbreak highlighted the cracks within the system that has been broken for years.
Such is the state of long-term care that a day after announcing an inquiry into the tragedy of COVID in nursing homes, the province is announcing its response to the last tragedy.
I don't think there'll ever be any true justice.
John Matheson's mother, Helen, was killed by nurse Elizabeth Wetlaufer, who, in spite of many warning signs, moved from home to home, intentionally overdosing patients. A public inquiry into the killings laid bare a series of failures, including a care home system stretched to the limits.
The government has to recognize that they can't take away money from these homes and then expect things to be better.
The Ford government says it's implemented a third of the inquiry's recommendations, but critics say it has not committed to a minimum level of staffing inside care homes. Government's own expert panel says staffing in those homes is in crisis.
It's unfortunate that there's a lot of pieces that seem to be missing even right now.
Elder advocate Jane Meada says the government should have acted sooner. Inaction over the past year, she believes, allowed COVID to exacerbate the failures revealed by a system that didn't detect murder.
It was not a surprise. Any of the things that came up during the pandemic at the beginning that caused those deaths.
Would you want to be in long-term care?
No, just take me out back and shoot me first.
In spite of it all, John and Pat feel they must remain hopeful, more aware than most of the consequences of failure. David Common, CBC News, Peterborough, Ontario.
In Alberta, there was a major hit to the oil sands industry today. French energy giant Total says it's writing off more than $9 billion worth of oil sands assets in the province. Most of that is related to its stake in the Fort Hills oil sands mine. Total says it considers oil reserves that will take longer than 20 years to produce and be expensive to be stranded because of carbon reduction targets. The pandemic has hit economies worldwide, but now we know just how badly Canada's biggest trading partner has been hurt. Between April and June, the U.S. gross domestic product contracted by nearly a third, blowing past the previous record set more than 60 years ago. And as Katie Simpson tells us, that has a president who was expecting the economy to carry him into a second term, just trying to change the conversation.
This is a president who knows how to get attention. And on a day when bad economic news was expected to be front and center, he steered the public conversation in a different direction.
No, do I want to see a date change? No, but I don't want to see a crooked election. This election will be the most rigged election in history if that happens.
Donald Trump walked back his earlier suggestion the election date possibly be moved. Tweeting a baseless claim about mail-in voter fraud, he then asked, delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote?
We'll cope with whatever the situation is and have the election on November 3rd as already scheduled.
Trump's Republican allies quickly rejected the pitch, which means it's dead since moving an election requires an act of Congress.
Never in the history of the federal elections have we ever not held an election, and we should go forward with our election.
So why might Trump have mused about this now? New numbers released 16 minutes before his tweet showed the U.S. economy shrinking at a historic rate because of the pandemic, which has badly hurt his popularity. Trump is trailing in most national polls and is trying to rebound by focusing his campaign on divisive issues.
There are those in power who are doing their darndest to discourage people from voting.
It is such a concern for the former president. Barack Obama used his eulogy of civil rights icon John Lewis to deliver a rare public criticism of the current administration's tactics.
George Wallace may be gone, but we can witness our federal government sending agents to use tear gas and batons against peaceful demonstrators.
Democratic challenger Joe Biden had predicted Trump would try to kick the election date down the road. At the time, a Trump spokesman said it was a conspiracy theory and that Biden was not in touch with reality. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Barack Obama was just one speaker at the funeral for John Lewis. Here's a bit more from all three former U.S. presidents who bid goodbye to Lewis, honoring his transformational struggle for civil rights and a better America.
We live in a better and nobler country today because of John Lewis and his abiding faith in the power of God, in the power of democracy, and in the power of love to lift us all to a higher ground.
I just loved him. I always will. And I'm so grateful that he stayed true to form. He's gone up yonder and left us with marching orders. I suggest we salute, suit up, and march on.
God bless you all. God bless America. God bless this gentle soul who pulled it closer to its promise.
Well-known Donald Trump supporter Herman Cain has died from a COVID-19 infection. Cain rose to prominence as a flamboyant candidate for the 2012 Republican nomination. Years later, he found a political kindred spirit in Trump. Like Trump, Cain often minimized the virus's impact. It's unclear where he contracted COVID-19, but Cain sat unmasked at Trump's rally last month in Oklahoma, which the state's governor later linked to a rise in infections. In Florida today, the first step in a mission to answer one of humanity's greatest questions.
Engine ignition, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Is there life on Mars? Up next, the challenges for NASA's mission to the Red Planet. And tense exchanges as the Prime Minister is grilled about the We controversy.
Is that conflict of interest, yes or no?
Okay, from the very first, Mr. Angus, you were unfortunately misleading people.
Rosie and the Ad Issue team will break it down and give us a sense of where it leaves the government.
Dude, we have to get your head out of it.
Paramedics nose to nose with one very stuck skunk.
You could tell he wanted our help.
Good thing they had their PPE. The response to this animal emergency in our moment. We're back in 2. Welcome back. In Saudi Arabia, only a few thousand people were allowed to attend this year's Hajj because of the pandemic. The annual pilgrimage to Mecca is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It traditionally draws more than 3 million Muslims from around the world. This year, only a limited number of Saudi citizens and foreign residents were allowed to take part, all expected to follow physical distancing measures. And that is a star-studded lineup of socially distanced wax figures who marked the reopening of Madame Tussauds in London. Visitors will be allowed in the museum starting Saturday. They will have to follow physical distancing measures. The wax figures of Trump and UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson were wisely sporting masks. A 7-month journey has begun for NASA's Perseverance, the most advanced rover ever sent to Mars. As Aaron Saltzman shows us, its findings could pave the way for humans to one day follow suit.
Engine ignition, 2, 1, and liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues.
The launch went off without a hitch. Good thing, too, because this latest mission to Mars is carrying the most sophisticated exploratory equipment ever sent into outer space. HD cameras capable of recording the actual descent to the planet. Microphones to pick up the first sounds. A high-tech helicopter able to fly in the super thin atmosphere and gather aerial images beyond reach of a rover. Plus,
on board that thing is also a way to pave the way for human beings to go to Mars. I mean, we're looking at processing the Martian atmosphere to extract oxygen out of it.
but Perseverance's main mission is to collect samples of Martian soil and rocks. Retrieved by a future mission, they'll be the first material brought back to Earth from another planet, an unprecedented opportunity and challenge.
These samples are going to be treated like level 4 biohazard, just like we would treat Ebola. So we have to protect these samples from Earth, and we have to protect us from these samples.
The samples will be collected from a place called Jezero Crater. 3.5 billion years ago, it was filled with water, fed by a river that left sediments behind, now preserved as rocks.
Ultimately, we're looking for evidence of life. If we find even, microbial life on Mars, it really opens up the possibility that life in one form or another is incredibly abundant throughout the whole universe.
The true promise of Perseverance, the tantalizing possibility that we're not alone. Aaron Saltzman, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, the hits keep coming for Major League Baseball, why the Jays' first game has already been postponed. And later,
our floor. Ooh, we the North, baby.
inside the NBA bubble, can the Raptors make another championship run? But first, Rosie is here with that issue.
Adrian, it is not something you see every day. The Prime Minister and his Chief of Staff testifying. So from the explanations to the questions left unanswered, where does today leave the controversy? What's next? Chantal, Andrew, and Althea will join us right after the break.
Public Service came forward with a recommendation to Cabinet to move forward either with this specific third-party provider that was We Charity, or else not move forward with the program at all. That was the binary choice we were proposing.
Prime Minister and his Chief of Staff were the focus of questions today, explaining how the We contract came to be and why they were concerned about, quote, perceptions. So did their testimonies before the Finance Committee change anything? What could happen next? It's Thursday in July, so we had to call these guys back for a special Summer at Issue. I keep promising not to call, but they answer the call. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj all joining me tonight, and I do appreciate you guys doing that. Before we start, just a little note of disclosure from Althea. She has traveled to the We Charity's Masai Mara camp in Kenya in 2014 as part of a corporate trip that was partly funded by her and HuffPost's previous owner, AOL, just to get that out of the way. Let's start with what we took from, I guess, the new information around the timeline here, that the Prime Minister, when this first came to his attention, decided that he wanted more scrutiny, the Public Service to go back and look at it again. Chantal, I'll start with you.
I'm guessing the main point Justin Trudeau wanted to drive wasn't so much the timeline, but the notion that he came almost last in the decision-making process, as in say yes or no to this, as opposed to the narrative that the opposition has been building, that this happened because the Prime Minister had a pet project and he pushed it on the civil service. What he also, I guess, wanted people to take from it was that he initially pushed back and said, well, wait a minute, there might be optics issues on this. That being said, the discrepancy obviously is between that realization that there would be optics issue because of the relationship with We and the announcement. There doesn't seem to have been a lot done to deal with that or to prepare for it.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister, Andrew, says that the reason they eventually chose We was because the only other option, according to him, was nothing.
Yeah, the civil service made them do it. They had no option. I think the Prime Minister raised more questions than answers by this gambit that we heard today, which we've not heard a breath of until now, both that he didn't know anything until May the 8th and that he had pushed back. So clearly he knew there was, I think, worse than optics questions here. There was, at the very least, serious conflict of interest questions. Whether it's a cut and dried case is another matter. But serious questions about that. But that having known that, he then pushed ahead anyway, when after apparently some due diligence was done that didn't seem to turn up either the multiple conflicts of interest, real or alleged, between himself and the finance minister, or the many problems at We itself that would make it a questionable partner with the government. So it just, you could almost believe that he was clueless enough that when it came in front of him at the cabinet meeting, he just didn't realize or didn't think about the conflicts of interest. It's a little bit different matter when he says, oh, I knew there was a serious question here, but I went ahead anyway. And his argument that, well, he had to because the civil service had presented them with a binary choice. No, if I may quote a previous Prime Minister, he could have said no. And he could have said, go back to the drawing board. He could have said, we're not going to proceed with a program that's going to land this government and this Prime Minister in such ethical hot water. So I'm just not sure that argument really holds a lot of water, frankly.
Except it seemed to be clear, at least to me, Althea, that the Prime Minister does not think this is a conflict of interest. I mean, I'm not going to judge whether it is, but it seems clear that he thought it was fundamentally a perception problem because there was no direct benefit to members of his family.
That he was aware of at the time, or that the program would offer them.
Yes.
Yeah, both he and his Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, repeatedly said that they believed that in his case, it was about the perception of a potential conflict. It did seem, though, that they were kind of suggesting that Bill Morneau, the finance minister, that he had perhaps a more real conflict of interest because they were not aware that he had traveled to We's camps on We's dime, that one of their daughters worked for We on contract. But I think to Andrew's point, the Prime Minister tried to suggest that it was the We program or nothing. But frankly, the MPs did not delve deep into that suggestion. What made it that We was the only option? Could you have structured the program differently? Why was We the only capable administrator? Because at the end of the day, we's not signing off on whether those students made 5,000 or 500 hours of volunteer work. Somebody else is. So could the program not be structured differently? Like, nobody answered that question, but that question was not asked either.
So let's be clear that, a perceived conflict is a conflict. One of the things that's common to all the ethics codes is you don't get to hide behind nice distinctions in law. You have to go out of your way to remove any perception of conflict. So you don't get to say, oh, it wasn't the right member of my family, it wasn't my spouse or child, it was just my mother and my brother and my spouse. I think that's a distinction without a difference.
Chantal, what do you think of that?
A couple of points. I still think that Justin Trudeau did better by going to the committee than by not going to the committee. His stance is on the record. People can decide for themselves, but it's better to fill the vacuum than to let others fill it, and they'd been filling it for a number of weeks.
Sure.
Number two, timelines, circumstances, all of that goes into the mix. But I still think that if I took something out of today, it would be that a lot of people are writing that the public service was thrown under the bus because it was suggested repeatedly that they came up with the suggestion. I think up to a point, Finance Minister Bill Morneau was also thrown under the bus. I didn't hear any defense or sense of defense that he wasn't part of the problem. I think if they were really blindsided by anything, it was the Bill Morneau trips.
What do you think, Althea, about that? Do you think that this, not that we'll talk about what happens next in a minute, but in terms of Justin Trudeau's testimony, whether he did himself any further damage?
Actually, I think both he and Katie Telford did themselves favors. I think it speaks to the fact that they want to be more open and transparent, and they're willing to acknowledge mistakes. I think that's perhaps the lesson of the last year for this Liberal government. But I do agree with Andrew. I think we were left with even more questions. And it does seem like in the mix of everything going on with COVID-19 and all the programs that were being designed, that so much of the decision-making power and the crafting lay in the public service. Look at the last scandal we were looking at, which was SNC Lavalin, where everything seemed to be run out of the Prime Minister's office, and how that cozy relationship with lobbyists, for example, was run. In this case, it seemed to be, from Telford's testimony, the details, we're not, that's all the public service. Yeah. We have nothing to do with that. I didn't know if it was the We Charity Foundation or We Charity, or how come they got paid on May 5th, and we didn't think this was a done deal until several weeks later. So there does seem to be, and I have no reason to not believe that what she and he are saying is not true, but it is interesting that the Prime Minister's office seems very removed. But that being said, can I just add one more point? Yep. It is not true that they did not know that we was being considered, because at the very end of her testimony, she does acknowledge that on April 20th, in a briefing document, we was floated as a possible suggestion as an administrator for the program. So if there had been alarm bells going off at PMO, you would have thought that maybe they would have said to the public service, oh, well, if you're going down that route, you should be aware of the Prime Minister's relationship.
I got to take a quick break. When we come back, there'll be another round. Andrew, you can start. We'll talk about what happens next.
This has obviously given us a pause to make sure that that we keep improving.
So how do they move past this controversy? Can they? We'll be right back with more At Issue.
process, you broke the Ethics Act a third time. What happens in baseball when you have 3 strikes?
A major mistake was made. Someone in cabinet should be held accountable. Which minister will you fire?
Do you think the minister should step down?
Just some of the calls for accountability and action from opposition MPs at the Finance Committee today. So what is the way forward for the government? Back for another round of At Issue with Chantal, Andrew and Althea. Andrew, I'll let you pick up before I get you all to sort of speculate about what happens next. Just one where we left off, Andrew.
Just on this question of the timeline, this May 8th date that we heard of for the first time today, when supposedly both the Prime Minister and his Chief of Staff first heard that we was to be involved with this program. It's questionable how plausible that is. There were conversations with cabinet ministers in early April, mid-April. There were conversations with senior civil servants. The program was announced, or they were told, we was told on April 22nd they'd be getting the program. We have, from Katie Telford's testimony, multiple points of contact between officials in the Prime Minister's office and we prior to that May 8th date, including one on May 5th, which was perhaps coincidentally the date that we began operations of this program, that all of these things could be going on, and all these contacts could be happening in a notoriously centralized top-down government, and neither the Prime Minister nor the Chief of Staff would know word one of it until May the 8th. That's a hard one to swallow.
Chantal, you can pick up there, but I also want you to weigh in on what happens next, on whether this story has legs, as it were.
Okay, so the government's overall theme that's, underlying all this is we're still in a pandemic crisis, and this, up to a point, is kind of a side story. That is true up to a point, but it's also central to what happens going forward, because what's been happening is not that people are riveted to the minutiae of who did what on what day, but that they are at the very least fragile at best in their trust in the government going forward, as we are still in a crisis. And on that basis, I don't think today solves that. I think the government knows that. And I am not convinced that if someone is going to walk the plank, it will not be the finance minister, because there are 2 central players in this. I don't think Justin Trudeau is resigning or calling an election, but I still believe someone is going to take a walk on this.
Okay, not a lot of time, but Althea, what happens next? How does it end?
Well, I don't think it's going to end for a while. I think that we saw Katie Telford offer some more names of possible witnesses that the opposition certainly wants to call. And part of that, we're going down the totem pole of power is because the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister and ministers who would normally be responsible and accountable and stand up and say that they are going to resign over this issue have decided not to do so. And to Chantal's point, I'm not saying that there is resignation watch on Bill Morneau right this moment, but I think if today's testimony is any indication, there is the door seems to have been open to that possibility, judging by the Prime Minister and Ms. Telford's comments.
Okay, Andrew, last word to you on what happens next.
I think 2 things will judge it or determine it. One is the polls. They are slipping in the polls. And so the second thing is nervous Nellies in the Liberal caucus. They have already moved beyond they're not consulting caucus enough stage to the Prime Minister's getting very bad advice from people around him stage. It is sometimes a coded way of attacking or criticizing the Prime Minister as you criticize the staff around him. So either or both Bill Morneau and Katie Telford, I think, may not be sleeping easily in the next few days.
Okay, one final thought from you, Chantal, because I have 30 seconds I didn't know I had.
or else Bill Morneau is sleeping more soundly. The fact that more PMO staffers are named brings trouble inside the government, but the confidence issue is a real serious issue, and that doesn't get resolved by putting junior assistants on trial, and that is why I think something major may happen. Remember, prime ministers do not change finance ministers in a crisis. Not for a long, long time. This would be some pretty big shakeup for the government.
Okay, leave it there. I keep saying I'm not going to call, but honestly, just maybe stay put, because I'm likely to call again. Thank you all for coming in July. I appreciate it. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast. You can look for it on any major podcast app. Our website, cbcnews.ca/The National. At Issue, we'll be back in a couple weeks or sooner. For now, though, it's back to Adrian in Toronto.
All right, Rosie. Well, up next, the NBA is back, and the teams have more than the championship on their minds.
It's really a time for us to address racism now, not only in America, but all over the world.
The stands may be empty and silent, but their message is loud and clear. It's time for the NBA to talk about race. Stay with us.
I'm Josh Block. Tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, we break down the latest in the We Charity controversy after the Prime Minister's turn in the hot seat before the Finance Committee. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Major League Baseball has postponed more games as the league continues to deal with the COVID-19 outbreak. 2 staff members on the Philadelphia Phillies tested positive after playing Miami over the weekend, a team that now has nearly 20 positive tests. The Phillies have shut down their stadium, and a scheduled series against the Blue Jays this weekend has been postponed. Tonight, another pro sports league returned to play. The NBA tipped off in Florida inside the elaborate bubble, which will play host for the remainder of the season. But as Devin Haru explains, for the Raptors this year, it's about more than the game.
And the NBA is back. Finally back on the court nearly 5 months after basketball suddenly stopped.
Both teams have gone back to the locker room.
Now 8 games to determine positioning, then the playoffs begin.
This is where the NBA Finals going to be. Hopefully we're here.
Still a long way to go before that for the Raptors.
Pascal Siakam to the rim.
Disney World turned into a basketball mecca. 22 teams, 3 game courts, 1 big bubble.
This is Raptorville, our floor.
The defending champion Toronto Raptors feeling right at home, focused on repeating, but also shining a light on social injustice. Arriving in Florida with Black Lives Matter plastered across their buses, on their jerseys, the champs wanting to be leaders on and off the court.
Can't forget about the task at hand and the things that are way more important than basketball.
There are great expectations now for a team that made history 1 season ago, captivating a nation along the way.
I think they're going to win these.
Longtime beat writer Doug Smith says head coach Nick Nurse will have the team ready.
Nothing is going to faze him, going to get in his way of preparing or getting his message to his team.
When the stakes go up, the intensity should go up, and we ought to be able to do that. It's not like we haven't been through it, you know.
The quest to defend starts Saturday night against the Lakers, playing at what they call the most magical place on earth. A Raptors team once again looking for a fairy tale ending. Devin Haru, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, would you stop to help a skunk in a bit of trouble?
Oh, dude, we have to get your head out of it.
What happened next after the break? Not everyone would pull over to help out a skunk, but 2 paramedics in Barrie, Ontario did just that. What could possibly go wrong? This is tonight's moment.
Dude, we have to get your head out of it.
Kind of saw at the corner of my eye what looked like an injured animal hobbling across the road. As we kept driving, I was like, oh, crap, such a sucker for animals. So I was like, Caitlin, I think I just saw an animal back there. Do you care if we turn around and stop? She's like, oh yeah, let's go.
It was weird because we didn't have a discussion on who was going to do it, but because I was in the passenger seat, it's always, that's the person that does the patient care. So
we went over and it took us a couple tries. I think the first time, I think you saw from the video, he was pretty like jumpy and hesitant at first. And then you could tell he wanted our help because he just kind of kept walking back over to us. And then eventually we mustered up, Kayla mustered up the guts to pull it off. We had had such a busy night. When it's 3 a.m, we were so tired and just laughing. But at the end of it, pretty happy we could get him free.
So I know you all want to know, did the skunk spray them? No, the skunk did not. Thank you, skunk. And wisely, they clearly put on all their PPE, lights flashing, as you do. That is a national for July 30th. Good night.